I was having this thought this morning. I think heading into I'm off to a trade show next week. I'm off to the Podcast Show London.
Amazing.
Which is in its third or fourth year. Despite this is difficult. Can my brain sustain these two pins that I want to put in things? Despite the slightly higgledy-piggledy brand nature, certainly of their website and that kind of stuff, they seem to have made it a thing successfully, which the first year I wouldn't have said would have looked like. Having looked at it, if you're like me and you judge things by websites, you sort of go, oh, bless you, you think you're going to make a thing. Oh, that's cute. And it's like, no, they've actually made it a thing. So fair play. And so I'll be going for the first time. And it was possibly that spurred me on to having a think about how I can't get arrested in this town. What I mean by that is, I was chatting to a friend about this earlier, and I really actually articulated it more than I ever have. It's like, if I think about the old Podium days, I felt like I had a little bit of a, for want of a better word, a standing, in the industry.
Yes,
I felt like I was, a thing. And I felt like I'd earned it. I'd been making podcasts for years and all this kind of stuff, and, made courses, none of them particularly successful. But, try to do good and various things. And in that, we had conversations, we talking to people from Libsyn, talking to people from Marco about Marco Arment from Overcast about various things, talking to people like Dan from Pacific Content, and in the work we were doing as part of Bitrate. But the stuff that I was doing with Podium as well, there was a time there where I was like, yeah, I'm in. I'm still lower tier, but I'm in. And selling, and I think I've said this before, but on selling Podium, I thought that would mean something. I thought that would carry over.
Right. And
I was not prepared for how much that did not matter. I dropped. If I had any standing, that is gone. I am nothing to this industry. And yet I keep having this thought that I am. And so I keep trying to have these conversations like I'm a guy. And I keep getting ignored like I'm nothing. And it's really, it's not like it's got to me, but it really, I was thinking about this a fair bit this morning. And the reason I wanted to put another pin in it is I was kind of wondering, well, maybe part of that is because you talk shit about people's websites. So maybe there's that, because I do call stuff out when I think it's bullshit or I think it's stinky. And that works for some people, and it doesn't work for other people. It doesn't work for me. It worked for the likes of people like Tanner Campbell, who's now gone off to be a Stoic. But it didn't work for me. And I don't know what that's all about. And so you start having questions like, okay, well, what makes you special? Why do you think you're special anyway? What puts you above all the other several, people who did various other things, or all the other podcast producers or consultants or whatever. Why do you, I work with other people who are not what I would consider, in the industry. They are very much in the industry, very much, but they're not the names that we know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I have this thing about wanting to be a name that people know. And yeah, it's been really interesting to look at that and think about it. And I pitched to do talks at the podcast show. And I've done it twice, and both times I've been rejected, and I've been like, are you sure though? Because it's that tricky thing. It's I was doing this before you even knew that you would want to put on before you even knew that there was an industry to put on a trade show about. I was doing this stuff. Are you sure you want to pass me by? Okay. And it's that, it's that kind of thinking that's I don't want to be bitter, but also I'm kind of curious, but also it's just I don't know. That's what I am untidily bringing to today's session.
So I'm curious about your desire for notoriety, for lack of a better word.
I just to we
I
can
don't
explore this. I don't know that it's notoriety more than it is a, perhaps, for want of a better word, childish sense of wanting to belong. Sense of acceptance of, it's that thing of like walking into a room and a bunch of people going, "Hey, you're here." It's. I think it's that. Maybe it is notoriety, but I feel like it's the wanting to know I'm part of the club.
Yeah, when you were speaking, the term imposter syndrome came to mind, which I know is something that you've thought about a lot before. I don't know. It's so clear. I'm nobody, of course, but it's so clear to me that you are somebody in your industry, in your work. When I say I'm nobody, I mean I'm nobody to the industry, but I'm pretty much I'm a pretty solid person. I exist.
Yes.
But yeah, in terms of industry wise, I had my half a second of fame and was happy to move on from that.
But you had a healthy response to it.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that was fun. Great, I'm out. I don't know. I don't know.
That's quite all right. Yeah, I think the imposter syndrome thing is interesting, and I'm also interested to find out. Like, it's so funny, and I, again, had this conversation with my friend today. If I go to, so there's a thing that I've gone to for the last couple of years, this hippie, this camping event for business hippies, and if I, like, the last time I went, and even I think the first time I'd gone, and obviously the first time I'd never gone before, I was meeting people, and I'd say, "I'm Mark," or I might have had something that had my full name, and people knew my name, and they knew, "Oh yeah, like I follow you." I'm like, "Oh, yeah." And so within that kind of community, these are people that I didn't know. I had standing, and that was lovely. And I, one of the things that I found really interesting about those events is how very quickly they make you feel like you belong, and that's really interesting.
That is interesting.
It was quite a profound thing the first time I did it, to like feel brave enough to strip to my undercrackers and jump into a lake with a few people watching. And, to be me and do that, and then sit in a sauna being me, all of me, and that being fine. And to do it again the next year, not at 7:30 in the morning this time, but to do the same thing again and know that it's fine and know that I'm accepted. And that is a lovely, warm thing. And I think that is something that I'm always seeking. I'm always seeking those open arms to say, you're welcome here. And I think that's something that I always want to try and engender as well, in spaces that I, maybe get to be a part of. And so I think, I don't know. I think I feel, and maybe this is the tricky thing, is like I feel like the industry, in some ways, the industry being the podcast industry, I never actually said that to begin with, it's actually really, really big. It's really, really big.
Yeah.
And
it's huge now.
Yeah, the idea that and this is where it gets tricky.
After the glory days when it was really small, and by being you haven't changed, but the industry has. It's gotten way bigger. So you're same size fish in a much larger ocean.
Yeah, and it's difficult. And this is definitely just a weird quirk of personality, and not unique to me by any means, but something that I definitely recognize is that sense of like. Motherfuckers, like I said about the event, like I was here doing this stuff before you even knew what a podcast was. So, for what it's worth, there's been a lovely, I'm loving watching on TikTok, the Gen X people like have their backlash, their, as the young kids would call it, clap back, they're clapping back. And I am again, as the kids say, here for it. It's wonderful to watch, because it's like there's this movement of like Gen X has been like, all right, just remember, guys, all of this that you enjoy, we tested it for you. Like, we opened the doors, we made sure all the bits were working. We did the friend face and the my thing and the you know, all those things so that you can have this thing. So, like, allow us our corner of the, you know, if we want to have our time over here, like, don't necessarily be quite so quick to fold your arms and be like, oh, you know, okay, Gen X. It's like, no. This whole thing that you enjoy, like, we were making this happen, and there's a bit of that without the, like, arrogance of it. It's just that thing of just like just you know, just as a gentle reminder. And so there's a bit of me that's like has kind of got that energy of like. Yeah, it's great that you want to talk about, you know, monetization, but we were here when there was no money. And not even when there was no money, when people didn't feel a sense of entitlement to money. I think that's the big thing. It's like, when did certain people within the industry feel like there was an entitlement to just money, to just like advertising money or whatever? It's like, no, that was never the case.
I wonder if it's partially because the industry has expanded, it's expanded to a different type of person, a different type of personality that isn't as scrappy, isn't as interested in making it themselves or doing it for the love
wires
of it.
and all the
Like,
connectors. And,
there's money over there. Okay, I'll go over there and then I expect money. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, and to sort of make the point, to be clear as well, like, this is not about, I don't think I ever have had any kind of bad thought to those who come in late, who want to make their own shows. I want to work with people who want to make shows. Like, I don't have any Johnny come lately feelings. Like, I or come in, like, absolutely come in. It's the people who have decided I am now an authority. I am now a thing. And it's like, and it's, you know, I think a lot of it for me is just that bit of, it's just me whining. It's just, where's my piece? Why don't I get a piece? And it's like, well, and this is where, you know, the ugly voices go, and you start to have the Ren conversation of going back and forth. Of going, well, what have you done that's special? What have you done that puts you in this echelon that you think you deserve to be at? Yeah. Because just being there at the beginning doesn't really mean, you know, anything. There's plenty of people who are like, again, like, tell me, Mother Hubbard, what is it that makes you special? And it's like, oh, shit.
That's a really hard question.
And then you have to have a reckoning.
Yeah. That's a hard question to answer. I think for most people, unless they're pretty narcissistic. Not necessarily, you know, clinical sense of narcissism, but just somebody who's full of themselves. Like, I know I have a lot to offer, but it's hard for me to come up with an answer to that question off the top of my head too. And I know of that.
It's tricky, isn't it? Because that's the thing.
A lot of really
like,
great people are the same way.
I love what you say there, and that's why I've interrupted you, because I kind of want to highlight it. Of I know I have a lot to offer. Yeah, and it's that surety. I think that's what's interesting. It's not, I want to be here because I want to be famous. I want to be an influencer. I want to be. It's like, no. I can help. If you would only just give me a chat, I can help. Yeah. And that, I think you've hit on it. Is that something you would like to explore? And I can shush and let you go.
No. But I do have a question. And this is an interesting question to me. And
I'm glad you labeled it.
Since you're in charge of the editing now, you can decide whether this stays in or not. When you say you can help, like, your profession for a while has been a coach, a helper of people's podcasts, and I know that you have done work that has been, you know, that has helped people, like, with their confidence, with their launching, with like some technical stuff. But like, in general, has that help really worked for people? Has what?
Fuck.
I know. It's really.
Oh, that's spicy.
I'm only asking because I don't know. Like, I'm not. It's not a leading question. But it's like, well, okay, you say that. What have you done with that? And I'm asking from a purely curious perspective of like, what are the results that you've been getting for people, or that they've been getting for themselves with your services and the cold wind blows?
No, that's a tricky question, and I'm
sorry, man.
very, very glad that you asked it.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Because that taps into a very real fear of I say I can help, whatever.
Yeah.
So okay, I can absolutely speak to the people that I work with that don't have shows, and I can speak to the people that do. So okay, just because I want to get this out first, and then we can look at the other stuff. Because I think I would be doing myself a disservice if I didn't. I know I have helped people who did not think that this was something they could do. I've helped them understand that they can do this and feel safe, and that they're not going to look silly. You know, it's a conversation I know we've talked about before, and I've put in various places. I was working with someone today who, I mean, it's funny. I actually made the meta observation with her today of going, ostensibly, we're here to like make a podcast, and it's like, well, plug this thing in, upload, record, done. And actually, what we're doing at the moment is getting into your deep, like psychological, like your own imposter syndrome. Like that's a conversation that we were having for quite a while today, and it was really meaningful and useful. One of the things I've started doing with people, actually only today, but I've started putting into my course, is getting them to tell their origin story, because their origin story then relates to the way that they're gonna, like, how are they here to help.
Yeah.
And so, putting those things in order is one thing. Helping people who have self-professed that's an awkward sentence. Helping people who have professed to have no technical skills and to actually show them how to make a full soup to nuts episode. And, thank you to Descript for that. But, being able to train them and to be patient and explain and hold their hand and all that stuff to help guide their thinking. That's a big thing, actually, is helping to guide the thinking. And I think hoping I know the right questions to ask. I know that one of those shows that I worked with ended up getting shortlisted for awards. And so that's meaningful in that sense.
Absolutely.
For them. And I am presiding over the growth of another podcast at the moment. Well, two, but one that I can easily point to, because every month we're actually looking at like, where are listeners dropping off? Where are they skipping? And and actually taking action on that and going, okay, well, now that we've got this data, we can make this change. And I say presiding over the growth because I'm not arrogant enough to suggest that everything I'm doing or even anything that I'm doing is contributing to that growth. But I know that what I'm doing is not, I don't believe it's slowing it down, and it's certainly not declining. Every month I make the report, and even if numbers of downloads are down, numbers of listeners are up. And I have to believe, because otherwise I should go mad, that is, I have a part to play in that, in the advice that I'm giving, and not just the production, but actually the things I'm doing to help. So that is that. And I think that's probably the main thing. If I were to just make sure that, me from 5 years in the future doesn't listen back to this and go, you didn't make a very good case for yourself. It's like I'm speaking to St. Peter at the pearly gates, and I have to say what good I've done.
Oh, yeah, well, I'm St. Brendan, the saint of sailing. So it's just about, I don't know. Damn. I'll let you in.
Thanks, buddy. We're going to need a bigger boat. So there's that. There's helping people with the stuff they don't know. And giving people, like, being able to listen to stuff and give them pointers and solve problems fairly quickly. So that's all fine. When you ask about results, that is the core fear, the core thing that has kept me previously from doing anything like making courses, anything like that, other than very technical ones where I definitely know I can talk about this stuff. A lot of what I'm teaching comes from my bones rather than from experience with other people. It's just, and that you probably tapped into the thing there of like, because I am unproven.
Depending on what you're trying to get.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's tricky because, like I said, I feel like I can help. It's that comes from the sense of, I'm pretty sure that if you took, and I would never say this to a client because it would be a shitty thing to say, but a mediocre podcast that is middling, would probably be a better word, and be able to identify what's wrong, and what can be fixed, and help them fix it, and watch their stuff go. The difficulty is it's the cycle of not really being proven enough in that regard to get people to work with me.
Yeah.
Because they would rather work with a traditional podcast marketing person who they think is probably going to say, well, if you put money over here, or if you fill in this form, you'll get featured in this app. And it's like, that's all great. But if people are coming to your episode and they're having a bad time, then they're not coming back. And that shit's harder to sell.
Yeah, it's harder to sell because
it's often stuff people don't want to hear.
Yeah. You're telling them that they need to do some work and not just throw money at it.
Yeah.
Which is, of course...
And that comes from a very kind of engineering or engineer's mindset, I think, is like, we are much better at saying, well, no, this is actually the issue. This is the problem. Steve Jobs comes along and says, that may be the problem, but that's not the pain. That's not what people are experiencing. You need to be able to package it up in a way that, and I'm glad to be working with someone at the moment who's helping me with some of that. And so, a lot of it may be packaging.
Sure.
But yeah, I think there is that real fear of like the very, very real and very legitimate to me question of, well, what have you actually done?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I, sit there and go, I feel like I should have more in the, I go back to that question of, well, what have you actually done? And in those darker moments, it's like, no, not a lot. And that doesn't feel great. So that's why I had that reaction.
Yeah, I get that. But you have done a lot. Not to argue with your inner self-critic.
You argue all you like.
You are helping people. You did create an awesome podcast hosting service that did get sold. You have given talks in the industry. You have had people that you didn't know follow you and come up to you and praise you. And like, whether you're seeing that audience right now in person of people that know you and like you and want you or not, they're still there. There's still people that, they still know, they haven't forgotten you. I mean, they might not be thinking about you right now, but you have done things. And while I think it's always great to check oneself and keep a clear head about things, those people that you are kind of whining about earlier that just come in and think that they are an authority now, like they're just exuding the confidence needed to be able to be looked at with the authority that you have. You do have that authority. And at the moment, in this moment of exposure and contemplation and vulnerability, you're not showing that confidence. And this isn't the place for confidence. This is the place for rawness and realness and stuff. But I know you have that in you.
Feel I have the competence. Maybe this is some Dunning-Kruger shit. I like. It's funny, isn't it? I'm confident I have the competence.
Mm-hmm. Well, go ahead.
My brain just went, but isn't that what it is? Like, what's the air gap between confidence in your own competence and this exuding?
Yeah,
to me, like, for some reason, I'm like, yeah, but I don't have this other kind of. Well, what else is it? Like, if you're it is. It's you're right. It's the type of person who says, actually, a good analogy of this is the number of actors who say they can ride a horse. It's like, none of them. But they all put they can ride a horse because they're like, when the time comes, I'll learn.
Yeah.
Like, when it becomes a thing, I'll learn.
Yeah.
And it's that energy,
yes.
I think, that I lack, which is, it's not dishonesty. And I think that the very, is it the one? Yeah, I think it might be the one in me, the wing to my 9, the tiny little bit that I do understand of the Enneagram, I think might see things in fairly black and white moralistic terms of like, well, anything other than the exact true representation of yourself, anything other than that is dishonest. And I think there is a lot of that. And there's another way to look at that, which I think is interesting, in that there is an argument to say that confidence. It's funny, isn't it? How like I can hear my whole countenance, my whole voice has changed. I just noticed that in myself. Like the way I'm speaking, I think feels very different from the way I was speaking 10 minutes ago. There is an argument to say that confidence is kind of a service. It's kind of not a duty. It's you need to be able to behave confidently because it's that behavior. Actually, here's this might serve as an example of what I mean. And sorry if I've talked about this before, but it's something that's stuck in my brain a lot. I used to run these public speaking events, short talks, and this was shortly before we knew each other. And I did 3 of them in Birmingham, and then the last one the fourth one I had to cancel because of various reasons. And I remember the first one, I wasn't hosting, I did fucking everything. Oh my God. So much work. So much work. But I was running the AV basically at the back of the venue. And I put this whole thing together and it was slick as fuck. Great. And we had an MC, my friend Caroline, who MC'd the first 2, I think. And I remember going into the sort of green room area, the backstage area, to see her and a couple of the other speakers. And she was nervous because, she's about to go on. And, it was one of those where like, it wasn't completely smooth. We'd lost one speaker. Someone else was going to be late. So I had to move the running order, all sorts of stuff. Yeah. And it was like juggling a few things. And she was nervous and I was nervous. And what I realized at that moment, which was really foundational for me, is like, it's not my job to be nervous. I get to be nervous if I'm a speaker. I get to pace and go shitty. Oh God, I'm absolutely bricking it. I think she was saying something like that.
Yeah.
I'm bricking it. It is not my. I cannot be that guy. It is my, for want of a better word, duty to go. No, you're going to smash this. This is going to be awesome. This, that's my job at that point.
Right.
Is to step the fuck up and go. Sorry, that was a bit over the top, but to step up and be like, no, this you're going to smash it. It's going to be great. It's going to go really well. And of course it did. Yeah. But it's like, that's the job at the time. Right. And that is a service.
Yeah.
I don't mean a service as a monetary thing. It is an act of service.
Right.
And so I think there is something in that, in creating that sense of surety. It is, in fact, probably see, I'm getting louder and a bit more bombastic as this starts to fill. I can feel it, in my energy. It's probably the confidence in my competence.
Yeah.
The quiet, if you will, confidence, if I can put it that way, that makes people feel safe when they work with me.
Yeah.
Because actually I know, no, I have got this. I don't do a lot of prep for my calls. I do these hour-long clinic sessions and I almost never prep for them because I'm like, I am quietly confident enough in my knowledge base to know, I think I've probably got a solution. If I know what the question is beforehand, I don't have to sit and Google it for hours. I'm like, pretty sure I know what the issue is here and we can smash it out. That's so interesting how it's an inner confidence, not an outer confidence.
Yeah. Yeah,
it is very internal. I am confident. And that's where I think I worry that it's arrogance. But I think it's not. I think it is. It's a...
Well, on those calls, those calls that you don't prep for, do you find a solution?
Yeah, I've never not.
Then it's warranted confidence.
Yeah.
You're proving it.
Yeah. And so it's really interesting. And I think, and that is the key. It's like, if you can master the outer confidence, the outer perspective, the outer packaging of the whole thing, then it does make the rest of it easier, because then, you get more people in and then you can prove yourself. The problem is I don't project necessarily that confidence.
Right.
And I'm very happy to project competence. I'm very happy to describe myself as competent. But you asked about results and I crumpled.
Yeah.
Because I'm scared to talk. I'm scared to promise results, even though I'm not responsible for delivering them. Which is another thing to remember. It's like, I'm responsible for guiding you, and not giving you bad advice. But I'm not responsible for you,
becoming successful in whatever terms that they decide.
Yeah.
Well, but then just don't promise that. Promise what?
Oh yeah,
promise
absolutely.
what you can deliver.
Yeah. What you can deliver. Yeah. And I don't think I ever have overpromised, because I couldn't freaking sleep at night if I did.
It's because I've been reading that they want to translate what you deliver into their goals, and so correct me if I'm wrong. In your mind, you're like, well, I can deliver this, and I know that you want from this I deliver to get that, and I don't know that you can get that. I just know that I can deliver this. Is that kind of where that disconnect is, and that, or part of it?
Yeah, there is. There's like. Yeah, there's it's funny. So I was just looking this up. I started reading a book the last couple of days just by a proper marketing bro. So there's some not great tactics in there, but there's some actually really good thinking that, he may have borrowed from other people, which is fine. It's a book called $100 Million.
Everything is everything.
Yeah, everything is everything. It's a good spot, sir. It's a book called $100 million Leads, and it's by a guy called Alex Hormozi, who is he's a gym bro, and he developed services for gym owners and stuff, and he brings proper kind of gym bro energy to it, which I don't love, but there's some useful stuff in here. And one of the things is being able to describe, you do a thing for what the thing is you do, in what time frame, and without a certain sacrifice. And it's a really great way to be able to confidently kind of say what it is you do. And so I ended up working on this a couple of days ago, and again speaking to a friend this morning about this. So coming up with this line of, I help subject matter experts launch and grow an addictive podcast in 12 weeks without any technical or marketing knowledge.
Boom.
I can speak to that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can deliver that.
Yeah.
If that's what you want, I can deliver that. Is it going to get 100 million downloads? Probably not. But is that my responsibility? No, it isn't.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because the market for that particular podcast isn't probably that big. It's unrealistic.
No.
It's not a comedy podcast. It's not a celebrity podcast. It's not an NPR podcast. It's like, so it's unrealistic to even think that that's in the realm of possibility. And also they wouldn't want...
Yeah, I can tell you it does not stop people thinking that, but I know you know that.
Yeah. Well, maybe, I don't know. Maybe that's also part of your job, is to show that, put together a little report that says okay, the other types of podcasts that you are the similar types of the podcasts that what you're going to be making, they all make around. It's hard to get those numbers.
Oh yeah, but they make around this, and it took them 5 years.
Yeah,
you're not going to do that from episode 1.
Yeah, and you're also there's an upper limit. There's a realistic max, and that's a good thing. You don't want to be talking to a bunch of people that don't need your message, that don't want your message, that's just a waste of their time, a waste of your energy trying to reach all these people that aren't right for you. So maybe that's a part of the service that you offer is, getting people to realize that maybe your market should be smaller.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's funny. I got a cold inquiry email today, and I was like, how did you find me? Because you emailed me directly. I mean, I'm glad that you did, but yeah, how did you? And it was someone asking, like, they're on episode 6 and they've already had an audit from a company who's told them their ad budget is too low. And I'm like, and so they're asking about the services that I offer. And I'm like, I mean, I can offer you these 2 things. And one of them will probably be quite useful for you. But like, dude, you're on episode 6. Like, don't worry. Like, don't worry about it. Like, just yet. Like, wait until you're at episode 20 before you start thinking about anything like that, you know? And it's also interesting. And I wondered, like, what your experience is with this as someone who provides services that are somewhat can be thought of as commoditized, is having the conversation. Is what are the things that we tell people that for us feel like, well, of course you tell them this. Of course you would say this. Yeah. But for other people, they're like, no, I ain't going to say that. If they want to know anything or if they want whatever, they can pay for my time, or they don't get to know that for whatever reason. And, you know, I'm sure you as someone, you know, if you're assessing the work that's got to be done on a property and someone's like, I want this thing. It's like, I mean, I could do it, but actually you don't want that. What you want is this other thing. Yeah. I ask and I think there's 2 kinds of people. There's Oh, yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. Why? What's the goal here? What's the motivation? And then you can be like, okay, well, yeah, I guess your idea would work for what you're really wanting. Another option is this, or I could be like, I understand why you're asking for that, but I don't think that's going to get you what you want. I'm proposing this instead. And sometimes I'll be like, actually, I won't do that. I can't do that. And this is something I could offer instead. You know, it depends on, you know, how much I want to do that thing or not. Sometimes it's like, oh, I hate that type of job. I offer this thing instead. But I'll also say, like, you know, there are people that will do that for you. You know, best to you.
Yes. Yeah. And I wonder about that because, like I said in this email, like, you know, I can offer this thing and this thing, but it was more and. My thinking right now is that, you know, like, we can jump on a call and there may be some things that I can help you with, but like, you're on episode 6, chill your boots. Obviously, he's on things that I'm saying, but you know, and it's interesting. I think as people who would probably rather do good work than get rich or famous, and that's where I start to wonder about the motivations of some of the people perhaps who have been in our orbit, perhaps some of the people we have talked about last week, where I saw, you know, you sort of do have that question then of like, it's in our nature as, you know, we wouldn't necessarily describe ourselves as generous, but it is a more generous act. And I think to us, it feels like, well, no, like, they need this. They need to know this thing. They need to know that, for example, they're too many. They're not enough episodes in to be worrying about it. Right. Like, I would rather talk myself out of a potential sale that, you know, and to other people, I'm like, I think it probably wouldn't even occur to them to say that. Yeah. Yeah. You know what I mean? They'd be like, well, they're not paying for my expertise. They don't get that until they cross my palm with some silver. Right. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, I think so too. And I'm the same way. Like, I think that I've gotten many jobs because I've offered advice during the free walkthrough, you know, like, and talked them out of doing a big project and doing a smaller one instead, or something like that, and where I'm helping them get to the thing that they actually want. And sometimes that, you know, it's not that it costs me money. It costs me a potential because I'm no longer doing that bigger thing. But like, that wouldn't have been right to begin with anyway for everyone. So it's like, I could have, like, you know, to me, it almost feels like taking advantage. Like, oh, you don't know that this isn't the right thing for you, but you'll pay me a lot of money to do it anyway. That feels gross to take advantage of that person and be like, well, yeah, I think actually something that you would pay me less money for would actually be better for you. And
I think some people don't view it as taking advantage.
Yeah, for sure.
I wonder if perhaps they view it as almost that idea of, well, the customer's right kind of thing,
Sure.
which turns out, I didn't realize this. We're almost all of us all the time using that phrase wrong.
The customer's actually wrong.
The phrase, the complete phrase is, in matters of taste, the customer is always right.
Yeah.
Because of course they are, because they're always right about their own taste.
Yeah.
But we omit that bit, as we do with lots of phrases, I think,
Yeah.
is we omit that bit and we just go, the customer, like, we know that's not right.
Right.
There's plenty of things that they're not right. And why should they be? Because they don't know because otherwise, if they knew the thing, they'd be doing the thing themselves. Yeah. And so I wonder if there's that thing of like, well, caveat emptor or whatever, buyer beware of like, well, you walked into the lion's den, you wanted my service, I'm going to provide a service for you. It's not my responsibility to educate you about. And I genuinely wonder if that's actually how, I don't know, most people operate. And then you meet the ones, because it does feel more rare to meet those people, and you do meet them in life.
Yeah.
You walk into a shop or you go somewhere and they're like, is that really what you know, are you sure that's what you need? Because actually, let's figure this out. And it feels like they are more like 20 to 25% than they are the majority of people who vend services. And that's interesting. And then in a what has been a fast moving industry in terms of podcasting, it's like, well, everybody's running around like little Jim Henson puppets. Gotta get my piece. Gotta get my little piece. Oh, there's a pandemic. Lots of people are making podcasts. Do I get my piece? There's no time to stop and go, yeah, but is that, it's funny. It's funny. So my phone threw up a memory today of a video that I made in 2020 with my family while we were all in lockdown. I made this a video of everyone singing "Don't Stop Believing," and I project managed the whole thing. I made videos to show them what they needed to do to record.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
So that they could hear the music in their own ear without it being recorded, so they could stay on time and on key.
Yeah.
And edited the whole thing and put it all together, and it's beautiful. And I watched it again, and it was lovely. It's funny. I walked back in here, and I was like, "Damn, that would have been a great little pandemic business." To create a little package to send to people to be like, whatever song it is you want, and I will edit the video for you once you've got all the footage.
Yeah.
But also here's like a load of stuff you send to your family to be like, right, here's how to do it. Here's, you've chosen this song, whatever. But it's the same video that goes to everyone, you've chosen a song. So, now make sure that you have your phone play, to do all that stuff, like record all the videos, do all the literature, give them all the messaging. And it's like, you go off and you gather the video, you bring it back to me and I'll edit it within, What a great little pandemic business that would have been,
Yeah, that'd be really fun.
I missed the boat. I'm not a good capitalist in the true sense of capitalizing on things.
Truly. I've been thinking a lot about my anti-capitalist stance with the, obviously for the past week and longer, I've been thinking about the arbitration results. And I've been thinking about how, I've been thinking about karma. And I've been thinking about how, this is my karma because that's what karma is. It's your doing. It's just a product of reality, of existing. And it's my karma as an anti-capitalist to have lost this lawsuit to pay all this money that I earned because it's my stance to be against capital. Not that I asked for it, not that I deserved it in any way. It's just karma. But I'm reiterating that because I know that I misunderstood karma for a long time, and I believe that most people also misunderstand it. But I've also been thinking about the other guy's karma. One little thing that's brought me a little bit of joy is in the when he canceled the contract, he insisted. I offered him immediately a little bit of a token of $5,000, and that while we try to work out some other things, and he declined that. He's like, no, just send me the full $40,000, and then we'll work out how much I pay you for consulting. And it's like, well, no. But he was like, I don't want to.
Firstly, no.
I don't want to have to keep track of this payment and that thing and whatever. I just want the full 40 back and then carry on from there. And so he wouldn't take it in payments. He didn't want payments. He didn't want partials. He didn't want anything but the full. And now he's gone through the courts and gotten them to demand that I give him the money. And, that's it was never his money to get back. So I didn't have it on hand. So now I'm making small payments. I'm not able to give him the full amount at one time. I've put forward 13. We've saved another 6 so far. And yeah, maybe in the next, I think by the end of June or July, I think we should be able to have it paid off. But like we're putting forward payments because there's interest being accrued, and we don't want the interest because that just goes to him. So it's like let's try and pay it off as soon as possible. But also I'm doing it in payments, which is just kind of hilarious to me. It's like what he tried to avoid and what what I offered from the beginning. He didn't want it, but
several $1,000s in legal fees later.
Oh yeah. I imagine that he has spent about $20,000. I'm actually currently in negotiations with my lawyer about his fee. This is so weird. Oh man, I forgot to tell you this. I never signed a contract with my lawyer.
What?
Yeah. So what happened is, so I reached out to him when I first got the lawsuit coming in and the email. I'm like, oh fuck. And so I looked up some lawyers and I found him and he seemed great. And I just asked for some advice. And because at the time I wanted to take it through mediation and resolve it outside of arbitration. And so he gave me some advice. I paid him for that. He said, it'll be $200 for me getting you a response here and looking over what your response is and that stuff. And so, boom, yeah, we had that exchange. I paid him, done. And then I asked him like, okay, how much would it be for, hiring you through the whole thing? And he gave me some vague numbers, but not anything hard. And then apparently he sent me a contract draft for us to work together, but I didn't get it. So I didn't even know that he sent it. And then as we go on, I sent him a few more emails, and we just kind of there was a bit of a break between. There was a couple weeks, couple months at different times where we didn't speak, and I came back and forth. And I think that he just kind of forgot that we hadn't set up anything yet. And I'm going through, and I'm emailing him, and I'm like, there's multiple emails where I asked him like, okay, so how much is this going to be? Like, I know you don't know a hard number, but like I can't spend $20,000 to defend $40,000. That's just not what I can do. So even though I ended up having to do that nearly, because I think we've spent 16 so far. And then we've spent about 16 so far. And then then we've received a bill for another 16. But this one, I'm like, well, okay, I'm not one to pick a legal battle with a lawyer. But what's interesting is that I kind of feel like I'm in the claimant's position right now when he canceled the contract with me, because I'm like, I hired you to do a thing, and while you did a bunch of work, you were so confident that that this was going to go in my favor, and I went through this with very much the expectation that and they hyped up the arbitrator. They said, oh, you got a great arbitrator here. They're very reasonable, very down to earth. I've worked with them before many times. Like, this is going to be open and shut. You have nothing to worry about. And while I appreciated that, it totally flipped on its head. And then I'm left with this huge legal bill, and it's like, okay, well, I never signed a contract. So what is my actual obligation here? I know I don't like it either, but also I'm like flat broke.
Oh, that wasn't a grumble. That was just like a. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but I'm thinking about all these different things, and I don't want to take advantage of anybody, but also like I was given a bill of services and not left with exactly, and like, yeah, it's all kind of complicated. So I told him like,
God.
okay, so what can we do about this here? Because because I told him like I didn't sign that, and he's like, oh yeah, you didn't. Okay, well, I need you to pay for my fixed costs, like my his legal assistants and stuff that he, people that he hired to do. Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And I'll get back to you, and we'll figure out a price that works. Yeah. So I'm haggling with my lawyer right now. It's a really weird experience.
Jesus.
And
Jesus Christus.
Yeah, I don't know.
That, I mean, I don't want to talk shit about a lawyer because,
Yeah.
But, dude, like, you had one job and that is actually what your job is.
Yeah.
That is what it is that you do for your job.
Yeah.
My God.
If he and I were to go through arbitration and have the arbitrator that we had, like, I wouldn't have to pay anything. He would have to pay me back everything I've paid so far.
Yeah.
Because it's all about it's all about 100% about what's in the contract and the wording of the contract. And if there is no contract, then
there is no agreement. There is no,
insane, right?
Ooh. Yeah, but then the problem is now you've got to pay another lawyer. To take you through arbitration so that you don't have to pay this lawyer.
Yeah, for sure. It goes on forever, and that's how they get you. That's how they get it's lawyers all the way down.
That's how they get you.
Oh my God! But you're off next week for your podcasting conference, which is amazing.
Yeah, so I'm off next week to thrust business cards into people's hands.
Ooh, hello, Stedman.
To see if people still use business cards. So I will see if people want business cards from me, and whether they want to boot my QR code. I built a fun little page yesterday that pops up if you do. So we'll see if that becomes a thing. I don't know. So it'll be fun to find out what the stage or what the trade show is like.
Awesome.
Because I really don't know.
Awesome.
And you will be silently retreating.
Yeah, I'm going off on my vision quest. Been building my packing list, and I've got a little daily checklist of things that I want to do for meditate, yoga, write, read, soak in the hot spring, cold plunge, walk, and I'm going to bring my guitar as well. So I'm going to do some. It's been a while since I've been playing. I need to get back into that, but I also want to do, not daily, but often, doing a workout. I'm not going to bring my weights. I'm just going to do some body weight exercises. And then, of course, the mushrooms I'll do occasionally, but not every day. And I'm pretty excited to get out into nature, get away from technology. Oh, we didn't talk about the game. We didn't. I started playing a game. Maybe we'll talk about it next time because it's already getting pretty late. But
yeah.
Yeah, I was talking. I told Margaret about the game, and she is very supportive of me in many, many ways, and me playing a new game is not one of them.
How does that lack of support manifest itself, Brendan?
It comes in her directly saying, "No, this isn't a good idea." She's very direct in her lack of support for me playing a new game. I tried to be like, but it's research. I gotta, and actually it is. I'm experiencing a new form of gaming and collaboration and getting into the mindset of where current gamers are at, in terms of how I want to communicate with and craft this experience of God mode for that. It is informing that, and I do. This is really interesting to me to continue to investigate that, because it's been a while since I've been really into gaming, and most of it has been solo stuff and not super collaborative. And this game is very collaborative. It's I'm in a strong alliance, and there's a big is like 30 or 40 people in it, and it's very happening. And yeah, it's all pretty fun. So I'm definitely I'm going to be playing it for a couple months, I think, and getting a feel for that world. It's kind of funny though. It is one of those games where it's an iOS game, so it's very geared towards like checking in often and to be able to get your daily rewards and hit all the hit all the red dots and get all the open the treasure chests and this and that. And I kind of don't want to lose the streak that I've started of getting those, but I'm going to be camping and I'm going to be out of cell service, and so I can't be doing it. So I asked a friend if they would play my game for me, and they said yes. And they're just gonna log in and hit the dailies for me, and so I'm pretty excited because like I'm gonna come back to a bunch of like open treasure chests, and I just have like a bunch of resources to use when I come back. So I'm kind of excited to just not have to play, but then get the benefit of like that reward. All the dopamine is just gonna hit me all at once.
I am not supportive of this.
You are not supportive?
No, I'm not supportive of this.
Oh wow.
I'm supportive of you and I love you, but I'm not supportive of this.
Of which part?
Joining your wife. I think that last bit.
The last bit. Yeah. No, I get that.
Yeah, no, the rest of it's fine. But you put me in mind of about 20 years ago. I worked for a tiny little software company, and this like what we would now probably describe as someone fairly toxic was a programmer there, and he built a tool in Visual Basic on Windows that played. I can't remember if it was it might have been Starfield or something, something, and it was some big MMO at the time. And he built a thing that would automatically mine asteroids while he was asleep or at work. And it would do it by blindly. It would start at 0.00, so Y on the XY axis on his computer, 00, top left, right click, look for a menu item that said mine, and if it was disabled or not visible, it would go to the next point and click 0, 1, and all the way across the screen, and it would just keep doing that until it hit the mine menu item that was enabled. It would click that and then wait for some period of time and then just keep doing that, which is, things like that are wildly against those games' terms of service, but it's also what he spent a lot of his work time doing. He also built a game and this is where it gets this is why it would not be unfair to label him a toxic individual. We didn't know a lot about Asperger's back then, Brendan. We were just beginning to understand, and we don't even call it Asperger's anymore. But we had a guy who came in, and he was on some sort of scheme where the company was I think the company got him for free, and he got paid by the state to help him get into work.
Okay.
Nowadays, we just go, that's a programmer. And he'd be programming, but back then he had a special thing to get in. And this guy, Mark, this other Mark, definitely not me. Although I'm not saying I was above this. I was not a saint because I laughed at the thing. But this, I can't remember the guy's name with Asperger's, but we'll call Ian. We'll call him Ian. So Mark, the mining guy, built a piece of software, beautifully designed and well coded, just to fuck with Ian. I mean, it's actually not as bad. It's actually not as bad as I'm making it out. It's not. It really isn't. It could have been anyone. It just so happened that his reaction to things happening on his computer was he was annoyed, and that was funny. So in fairness, it actually has very little to do with him having Asperger's. But what he did was he built. He rendered a virtual keyboard on screen with all the keys laid out correctly. I mean, he spent ages doing this, and this was all in work time. It was an absolute feat of jackassery, but my God. So there was a full representation of a keyboard on screen, and each key was a clickable button. And if you clicked that button on the screen, it just via network disabled that key on the victim's computer.
Whoa.
So there was a piece of software running in the background on the victim's computer that was, I think, hidden from everything in Windows.
Wow.
So you couldn't shut it down.
Wow.
I think there was something like if you labeled if you labeled your application in such a way and you went to like the Windows equivalent of force quit, it would look like a system operation, even though it wasn't, and it wouldn't let you quit it. It was some loophole like that, so you could hide it in plain sight.
Amazing.
And so he wrote this thing, and he installed this little agent on the guy's computer. He probably even installed a way to update it remotely. I wouldn't have put it past him. But what it would do is, he could click a button and it would disable that key on his keyboard. He got a 2D representation of a mouse with the two buttons, and if you clicked one of the buttons on screen that corresponded to the mouse, it would disable it on this person's computer.
Dang.
He did it for 2 weeks just with the spacebar. And so you'd be working away, and from behind you would hear as the guy was trying to get his spacebar to work. He would reboot, and then of course the problem would continue. He got a new keyboard, and of course that didn't make a difference. He then reinstalled Windows.
Whoa.
But he made the crucial mistake, Brendan, of going to the toilet, at which point, once Windows was installed, my friend came along, installed the agent on his machine. So he did the thing again for 2 weeks.
Hey. Was it intermittent? Like, would he take?
Oh yeah, he would make it. I think so. Yeah, he would like, make it.
Yeah, it would work again and be like, oh, okay, it's fine. Okay, phew. Yeah, and then it's broken again.
But then randomly, torture.
That is torture.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's that guy did not deserve, regardless of his place on the spectrum, he did not deserve to be harassed by some alpha bro. And this guy was a bro as well. He was a programmer. He was an absolute programmer. He didn't deserve that treatment. But at the same time, like, categorically, he did not deserve that treatment. But at the same time, you've got to marvel at the evil genius.
Oh my God, yeah, dude.
Not mercurial. What's the word? The Machiavellian, the Machiavellian evil. Just wow.
I love the way that you uncover a word when you're trying to remember it, and you start like, no, it's not that word. It's this. It's kind of like this. It's like, it's this word. Yeah. It's really beautiful. Well, so we got cool weeks ahead of us, and we'll be back soon with more stuff. But as always, with the exception to the matter of taste, correct me if I'm wrong.